I had a teacher, he would always define place as the human culture and history, the built environment, and the lived environment. And so when you're totally disconnected from place, that I think is where the spiral of mess can start to begin.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Ashley, and we're Reverends.
Revs on the road. Hop in the car with us and come along for the ride.
As we step out of the pulpit and see what God is up to in the world.
We're not leaving the church.
We're just finding it in all kinds of beautiful places.
Okay, friends, today we talked to my friend and colleague in soul work, Shannon Hoffman. I met Shannon when I was just a freshman in college in Memphis, and her open heart, infectious laugh, and passion for reflective activism has continued to inspire me. She's working in Denver as a community organizer, and today we'll talk with her about anti-racism, care for the homeless community, and all the ways Shannon and her community are getting free. Revs on the Road is sponsored by the Pastoral Residency Program at Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas.
The Big D.
The residency is part of Wilshire's Pathways to Ministry initiative. It provides recent seminary or divinity school graduates with 2 years of practical ministry and learning inside the church.
Residents,
like us,
are full-time ministers who preach, teach, and gain experience in all areas of church life.
Learn more about the Wilshire Pastoral Residency,
including how to apply,
at wilshirebc.org.
WILSHIREBC, wilshirebc.org. How you doing, Jen?
You know, I'm hanging in there. I think I got one eye a little bit going. I got an eye twitch.
Yeah. We've got
but the world is pretty stressful right now, isn't it?
It
Wouldn't
is.
You say, how are you? Are y'all stressed out there?
I had my dear old friend Diamond Lil in Atlanta used to say, I'm hanging on by a slender thread. So that's kind of how I'm feeling.
Yeah, there's a slender thread.
Hanging on by a slender thread.
A slender thread. Well, you know, I think it's interesting to me that it is a huge deal to go through a global pandemic. And it's amazing how we just can grind our ways through that and live as normal. I think that's what's going to be crazy is years later, we're going to look back and be like, well, we kind of just kept doing everything the same.
Same-ish.
Same-ish, but we kept the same intensity as if we weren't having this added constant chronic stress of news and raging cases and full hospitals. And I mean, that's just big.
And grief and loss
and pivoting and changing plans.
And then there was this bright hope period, I feel like, where we, a lot of us were vaccinated and felt like
it was coming to an end. Yeah.
There was a sense of freedom that was wonderful. And it feels a little bit like kind of impending doom, like not again, go away. So it's interesting to me to watch how people are reacting. I think fear makes people do really interesting things. Fear can really get the best and the worst of us going. And it's usually, unfortunately, the worst of us.
What does it make you do? Fear?
Oh, I go into my hidey hole.
Yeah.
Blankets. You will not get me to come out. Emotionally, physically.
You're in.
I am in my hidey hole. Thank you very much. No. There's no part of me coming out when there's a sense of fear. I see other people, offering kind of judgy reactions, and it's just a weird place.
It's a weird time, and especially being in church leadership and trying to model how to make decisions and
How to be a non-anxious presence. That's hilarious. So funny. Oh my God. How do we do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not feeling, but again, I am vaccinated and not worried about, losing my life because because of most of the deaths and the severe cases, and so I don't feel as afraid. I think I'm feeling more weary from the chronic stress of hearing about it and talking about it and knowing those in my circle that are feeling really afraid.
And I think there's also this thought of like having to go back on some kind of lockdown feeling. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to a place where we're back virtual.
Oh my God.
It's been beautiful to be around people again. And I've loved it. I didn't realize until that I've always been an introvert, but that doesn't mean I don't love people and don't love being around people. But it took me this year to realize how much I actually physically need to be around people. And there's a difference between being an introvert and being isolated. And they're very, very different. And so the thought of the potential of being back there is scary. People got to get in line, follow science. It's like a group project, man. I feel like I've done my homework, like some people in the group project haven't done theirs. So it just, they get an F. I'm reporting them to the teacher.
What also, yes, report them. And I think what feels, I don't feel like we are going to go back. We can't, we have a vaccine. That is the difference between,
right.
We were facing total shutdown and no knowledge of when vaccination would be available. And vaccination is saving lives right now.
It's here. So there is something that can help us. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated.
Yes.
I mean, do your part.
Do your part.
Think of it as a group project. Come on, folks.
And whatever is so scary about, the government or whatever it is for people that is so hard, it's just finding a way to move past that and trust in, we trust in FDA approved things all the time, like just trusting in it.
If you drink a Diet Coke,
right, it's been approved by the FDA.
You're okay.
Yeah.
If you eat any kind of processed food, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like this, think about what else you put in your body. So I really can go off on this again. I feel like I do that all the time, but
it's, yeah.
I think also people, like I said, people react out of fear, and fear makes people do a lot of things. And it really, I wonder what would happen to us if we got to a place where we were acting out of hope instead of acting out of fear. I say that to myself as well. And it's hard. And so it's this weird line, I have to, because I'm immunocompromised, I have to live with a sense of protection for myself and live in hope. So it's this weird place.
And not let fear dominate your everyday.
Right.
Because you are here today.
Yeah. So there is a reality and there's also hope. So it's this weird place, but those who are not immunocompromised, do your part. Do your homework. Come on, So, on a better note, you've got a fun day coming up.
Yay! I'm turning 28
Something
on
to
Friday.
celebrate.
I'm really excited. I'm excited for this birthday because I think I've done so much work in the last year to make room in my life for joy and connection and friendship and I'm excited to kind of celebrate that, you know. And I've grown a lot in the last year. So
What are you celebrating this year?
I'm celebrating being free and being out, and I coming out is just, it never ends. That's been an interesting learning. It actually doesn't end that day that you do that post. Did you know that? It's like it's ongoing. It's ongoing. And I think there's a part of me that thought that, okay, I did that, and then you you almost can retreat back
To the hidey hole.
To the closet, right? And then it turns out that you can't.
Maybe not going back into the closet, but maybe like to a comfortable, like colorful blanket.
Yes.
Like
some type of blanket.
Safe queer hidey hole. But
yes. But yeah, and I think I've also just really worked on making myself vulnerable and making new friends. That's been my work this year. I've been really making new connections, and that's scary and hard, but it's making such a difference in kind of building my tribe and feeling more true to myself and connected, and so
it makes me think, make new friends and keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold. Do you know that one?
Yes. I do.
That's one of the only things I learned in brownie. I never made it past brownies. I quit. I think maybe the second or third meeting when I found out that they were going to take us camping and we had to sleep on the ground. Oh, the podcasts are back.
I love you. Bye bye. Go. Bye bye. Beep 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 beep. If there's an open drawer, they're gonna find
the podcasts are gonna find it. Oh, look at that face.
She's mad at me.
Make new friends. Make new friends.
Why are we singing?
Because you made new friends this year. So
I really
it's a
did,
really celebratory
and it's
thing.
a big deal. Like, my hidey hole would mean that I'd never make friends, and
that surprises me. I really find that hard to believe about you, knowing your personality.
I love connection.
Knowing how exuberant you are, that surprises me.
But it's been learning I'm worthy of connection, Ashley. Like, that's been hard for me to learn, and that people want to be in friendship with me. Because that just got real on the podcast. But I mean, I feel like people could relate to this. Like, it's one thing to, other people can see things in you that you can't see. And like, people this year have just been, telling me how awesome I am and how much they want to be my friend. And it kind of, every time I'm like, really? Like, really? And then that's getting, that gap of really is getting smaller. I'm like, oh, of course, like, I'm worthy of friendship and connection.
Weren't you challenged on that recently?
What?
Didn't somebody say, don't you ever argue with that again or something?
Yes.
Don't you ever question that again? Yes. I mean it.
Yes. And so, but yeah, I think that I like
that image though. You said the really is getting smaller. The
gap. The really, it gets smaller each time because I even think with you, like I felt like, oh, how nice when I first became your friend, it was like, oh, Ashley's so awesome. And like, how nice of Ashley to be friends with me, I
mean, I am awesome.
But how interesting my perspective has changed is like, no, like Jenna and Ashley are awesome. And like, of course they're going to be friends.
Of course I'm going to be your friend. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But that takes that inner work and the inner child.
Both of those things are true. Ashley, I am awesome. And so are you. And yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Now, obviously I want to be your friend. The Revs on the Road podcast is powered along by Good Faith Media. Learn more at goodfaithmedia.org.
Ride along with the Revs on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Revs on the Road.
And hey, give us a honk by liking the podcast on your favorite platform. So, talk to me about birthdays. Are you a big birthday person? Do you love them? Hate them? Are you one of those like, I celebrate my birthday month?
I mean, again, this is like kind of getting tender, but like I've just had some really hard years the last few years with my mental health, and so it's like a source of, I've had so many birthdays that I was kind of just pushing through and like posting the cute picture, but I didn't really feel excited or connected to friends. And so I think like each year I'm kind of learning how to celebrate myself and learning how to, because of course, like I think I'm making new rituals, right?
Yeah.
Like and learning that like it can be a fun day, and it is, I am worthy of celebration is just kind of the on repeat. So yeah, I think this is going to be a good one. I'm excited. We're going to go to a pool, have a pool situation, maybe a little like photo shoot situation.
It is going to be Instagrammable.
Oh yeah.
But
oh yeah.
We're going to hope it's an authentic
I think
Instagrammable
it's going to be more authentic. And I don't think I'm alone out there. I think there are other people that have felt sort of like they had to force that birthday smile. And if that's you, I just feel like I'm speaking to someone. If you don't feel like you're in a really healthy, happy place, but you feel like, oh, I have to post this or whatever, like just know you're not alone, and that life has seasons, and you're worthy of community and celebration.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I second that, and we celebrate you, Jenna.
Aww.
And you are worthy of friendship and love.
I received that.
Good. We're so glad that y'all are along for the ride today. Thank you for joining us.
You know what, Ashley?
What?
We're getting low on gas.
And it's expensive.
Yep, but we've got help. Let's fuel up with this word from our sponsors.
Has someone told you today that you are loved just the way you are? If they haven't, let us be the first to say it. You are loved just the way you are. At Holmeswood Baptist in Kansas City, Missouri, we work to embrace the goodness of Christ that is all around us and is within everyone. From racial justice to economic stability, to equality around sexual orientation and gender identity, we partner alongside Christ toward a more just and equitable life for everyone. Learn more about us at holmeswood.org.
I'm Reverend Starlette Thomas, a womanist in ministry and the host of the Raceless Gospel podcast from Good Faith Media. It's season 2, and we're still talking about that taboo trinity: race, religion, and politics. This season of the Raceless Gospel has 8 episodes, 8 podcast church services. The doors at this church are open, and we're going to talk about the sticks and stones we carry faithfully that break the skin and bones of Christ's body. And on each episode, we're joined by those who bring perspective and insight as to how we set these broken bones and perhaps make things right. The Raceless Gospel Podcast. 8 episodes released every Sunday beginning July 18th. I'm your podcast pastor, Reverend Starlette Thomas. Join us as we discuss the church in North America's bodywork. Learn more at goodfaithmedia.org.
right, friends, we are hitting the road again this week. We are going a long ways away to Colorado with our friend Shannon.
Yay! Shannon Hoffman is one of my dear friends and just an awesome person. She's a community organizer, activist, and doing some amazing work in Denver. And we're so excited that she said yes, especially after she came to visit me recently, and we had a great time showing her around Dallas. And it's going to be so awesome to learn more about her work. Hey, Shan.
Hey, yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Like I was saying before, I was secretly hoping I would get asked to be on the podcast. So happy to be here.
Well, it's meant to be for sure. And you're on a little sabbatical is what I've been calling it right now, taking some time. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, I've been on a mega 3-week road trip to Taos, Dallas, Memphis. I'm in Nashville right now, and then I'll be headed to St. Louis and then back to Colorado at the beginning of August. Well, I guess it is now, but yeah, pretty soon.
So you've needed some R&R. You do some amazing work, and tell our listeners just a basic overview of what you do and what you're up to in Colorado.
Yeah, I moved to Colorado. I moved to Denver in 2017, and I lived in Memphis for about 4 years before that, and that's also how I know Jenna.
Yay!
I ran this scholarship program, and was also really involved in Memphis in various organizing groups and volunteer communities through the Episcopal Church there. But when I got to Denver, I just was like, I want to dive right in and make sure that I'm very involved in community. That's super important to me. So lately, though, one of the big things I've been a part of is this group called From Allies to Abolitionists. And we work to support people, most especially white people, to move from being passive allies to active abolitionists, and also thinking about the concept of abolition as definitely, yes, prison industrial complex abolition, but also that there are many systems that must be abolished, and looking at people that were, our models of abolition that we can look to. So that's the community group that I'm a part of. And then, I have this new job with a community organizing group called Montbello Organizing Committee, and I'm the assistant project manager on a major project to bring a grocery store and affordable housing to the Montbello community, which is in the far northeast of Denver.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think, I really want us to just dive into this concept of abolitionism, because you and I had some great conversations over the weekend, and I want you to really explain for people and what does that mean, and how does that framework inform your anti-racism and your community work? What is it exactly?
Well, to me, abolition is two things, and I think we often think of the first one, but the second one is also very important to me. So abolition is abolishing the systems, structures, institutions that create and really systematize racist structures. Also, any kind of like caste-based system. So we could also be talking about financial inequity, but those two things are always going to be tied, I think, which is racist structure then sort of goes right into something that creates financial inequity for people. So it's abolishing those systems and structures, but it's also, to me, dreaming of new ways of living and being, and I think that is a really important part, because I think often people think like oh, they just want to like crush everything and burn it to the ground, and like we do.
Defund the police,
and like,
in a way we do. Yeah, I know.
And we want to dream of a new way of being together. Yeah. So like in the case of looking at, wanting to, defund the police, well, then that means that we want to think about that money is being, poured into an institution that has at its root racist practices. And we would like to funnel that money into things that would support people having better, fuller lives, and like dream what that world can look like.
I'm hearing this as something that might strike fear in those within the church, and I love it.
No, you don't say.
So I want to hear more about the dreaming part. A lot of us are quite familiar with the deconstruction part, the breaking down and the tearing down and the, we're done with this. Talk to me more about what it looks like to dream. I think you might see that in some of your daily work in the community building. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, and I guess just to tie it to, church idea, right? To me, because just to share too, I guess I'll deviate and then circle back. It's just that like, so much of, I think the heart of how I've gotten into this work is through the church and my understandings of scripture and being a part of volunteer organizations that were based in, Christian organizations. And to me, all of that is bringing heaven to earth, right? Like that's dreaming abolition. And I guess, I don't want like some prosperity gospel message that's like, once you do all this good, then once you get to heaven, then you will have a good life. No, I like believe it is possible right now, so I guess, a way that looks is so one major project that I worked on with this community organizing group was looking at in Denver, there are lots of people who are unhoused, and the cost of housing is a huge issue. And so we looked at the cost of the city going in and basically they will come and forcibly remove, they will put up fences, the police officers will come and they will say like in, the next 4 hours, you must move your belongings or you will be ticketed. And we did some research about how much that costs, and we found that in just 7 of those sweeps in 2020, it cost the city about $150,000 to do just 7. And if they're now averaging about 2 to 3, sweeps a week, and maybe each sweep is somewhere between like $5,000 to $20,000, it's a huge amount of money. And so to that like dreaming piece, right? It's like, well, our dream is that nobody that wants to be unhoused, which is most people, but I'll add a caveat about some things I learned too in that research project or process, is like they should be housed. If we have this much money, then we definitely have money to house people and not spend it on traumatizing people. And some people, just for that little caveat, have been on the street for so long that sometimes they need like a transition or some kind of, support. But point being, like, the dream is that everyone is housed, and then everyone's like, yeah, this is a lovely dream, but I don't really like it when someone's outside my door with like needles. And it's like, well, a lot of us don't. So like, but what we could do is offer people, a trash service to come by, because we have those capabilities in the city. We could offer bathrooms, like we could offer them a place to stay. And so, yeah, I think it's the thing I've kind of learned more and more in organizing just in this past year is like, the lofty dreams that then folks are like, well, that's like some utopia that's not possible. It's like, it really is. So then it's like getting into the weeds of like, well, let's pull out budget line item.
Right.
Which is not the most fun, but is necessary.
But budgets can be hopeful. They can, like, they really can. I like a budget. I like a plan. So I see that. The bridging the gap of the reality and the dream.
Yes. Totally.
So paint us a picture a little bit of what Denver area looks like. Because I feel we talked a little bit last week about how the neighborhood of Oak Cliff in Dallas probably looks a little bit like other cities. And I'm guessing that Denver might look a little bit like other cities around the country too. So I'm wanting people to realize that this is not an isolated issue. Talk a little bit about what's happening in Denver specifically with affordable housing and food deserts.
Gentrification and who all the things.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's just some really, first of all, really beautiful and culturally rich parts of Denver. And that's something that I am also really passionate about, is that as we see cities, booming across the country where young people want to move to, I would hope that wouldn't be the problem. To me, I think one of the major problems with gentrification is that cities become the playground for people to come and I think that I see this in Denver, to like go to a bunch of breweries and have really nice dinners, and lots of people like that and enjoy that, but when that means then that as a newcomer you're totally disconnected from I had a teacher, he would always define place as the human culture and history, the built environment, and the lived environment. And so when you're totally disconnected from place, that I think is where the spiral of mess can start to begin. So in Denver, we have like the Montbello community, where I have worked in a school and I'm working on this big project, is a historically Black neighborhood and has a growing Latino and immigrant population in that neighborhood. And then also in Southwest Denver is a large Chicano Latino neighborhood. And so those are like the two far corners of the city. And they also call it the inverted L in Denver, because those are the neighborhoods where so then also in the top of that L is this neighborhood called Globeville, Elyria, Swansea. And actually, for all of, just think about this, right? Like, think about Denver, mountains, biking, parks, breweries, the sun is shining. Well, guess what? On the top of that inverted L is the most polluted neighborhood in the country. And it's a Latino and historically Black neighborhood that just runs right up to Suncor, which is like polluting their air quality, their water, and now also to make space for all these new folks that are there. The city has, by eminent domain, taken away people's homes and expanded our expressway. So so I think then what gentrification starts to do is like, pit us all against each other when like, I moved there because I wanted to be in a more progressive place. And I also, feel really passionately about all of these particular issues. And sorry, one more thought before I like wrap up this thought, but it's just one thing Jenna and I were talking about it and how I think this connects to racism is that, the concept of whiteness was created as a way to take away cultural identity from white people. So, like when we look at the history of the KKK, so in Denver, they just found these two big books of all the people that were in the KKK in Denver. And when I was reading part of that history, it talked about how at first it was a very small group of people because they wouldn't let in Catholics, they wouldn't let in Irish people, they wouldn't let in gay people. But then once they were like, well, crap, we're not big enough to like be a strong powerhouse. So they started to let in people, that were Irish, all the things that they were saying at first, like you couldn't be in. But once you come under that banner, right, you're just white. So you just lose your cultural identity. And I was saying that a thing I think
this is so
just a theory,
important.
But that I have is that, okay, then if you're a white person who then moves to another city, like your ancestral background has been like removed from you, then you want to come to some new place where you're not from your old city anymore. And basically you're just trying to like, I don't know, you're just like a blank canvas, but you're not, you just sort of like subscribe under this umbrella that's like, we like these things. Or what you might do, which a lot of white people do, is you might try to then appropriate things from other people because you don't have your
that
own
sense
particular
of connection.
Identity.
And this is, and not to interrupt you, but I think this is something I really wanted to talk about on the podcast because I think we've had some fascinating conversations. I think that people think that whiteness is, it gives us power, but it strips away meaning making and identity and ritual and culture. And there's so much more to whiteness than we even realize. And it affects how we connect with each other. It affects our sense of place and identity. And I think we were hitting on something, Shannon, when we were talking about it, just that it's not just about beginning an anti-racist practice. It's disembodying whiteness in yourself and all that comes with that, and we kind of we say the word like quirky or like eccentric, but I think it's tied into that too, because what whiteness says is that we all have to look uniform. We all have to be put together, and like so much of this is just unlearning that and choosing something different, and I feel like your work with reconnecting with your ancestry, and you're getting into a different side of anti-racism that I think is important. And it's not just about like slapping the wrist of a white person and being like, no, do better. It's like, no, reconnect with what gives you life and joy and meaning, because white people don't do that often.
Well, yeah. And I think also what like we can get into, right, is that we're supposed to have so much guilt and shame. And yes, I think we should acknowledge any kind of feelings of guilt, shame, or regret, or, make amends for those things, for any, thing that we have done or may do in the future, because anti-racism is like lifelong work, but if the place where we live every day is in guilt and shame, we can never get to action.
We never move
and
forward.
That is like so much, that's like what our Black and brown siblings need us to do desperately.
Act. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's moving through that accountability, and taking accountability and then moving into action, because shame and guilt can paralyze us as white women, into just feeling guilty, and then we don't act.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the beautiful part too about looking at abolitionist histories. And of course, like my friend Jeff that started From Allies to Abolitionists as a part of his theater company, he is always like, we venerate Harriet Tubman, and so of course want to honor her. I am really, though, curious to learn more about the white women abolitionists. And there was this woman I was reading about. She wrote this essay that she is calling on other white women, and one of the lines in it is, "White woman, your power is sufficient," and basically saying like, you can. Calling out white women who are saying like, I can't do anything about slavery. I can't, I have no power. I have no power in this world as a woman. And she's like, look, like, you raise the babies, you tell your husband what to do, what to spend money on. Like, you have power, and your power is sufficient to end this terrible system. Mm. And I think looking at those histories too, as we talk about ancestry, Jenna, is so important, because I think our ancestors are both, the blood people that we come from, and they're also people that we choose. And for white people, I think when we also get stuck in that guilt and shame, my friend Anna in Denver, she taught me this. She was like, when we get stuck in that guilt and shame, we think, there's no white people from the past that were good that we can look to, to be role models. But no, there are all these abolitionists that worked to abolish this terrible system of slavery, that wrote all these amazing works that we can look to as guidance.
So you're obviously somebody that we can look to doing amazing work in Denver. Talk to us about some of your hopes and dreams for your community. What are your visions?
Well, I would love to see affordable, accessible housing for people in our community. I think there are a lot of new buildings in Denver, and a lot of them sit empty. And so we have a lot of questions about, while we see so many people that struggle to make rent, why do all these buildings sit empty? And I think there's a little bit more like in the weeds work, but for the overall dream, it's like, I just want to see people in homes, and have like a safe place to go at night. And so that then from that place, they can also give their gifts and talents to the community and share them with people. I think that there's so many amazing, talented artists and creators in Denver. And so I would love to see, people be able to have that flourish for themselves. But I think the baseline starts with, being able to have happy, healthy home. And then another piece of that is, that goes right along with where you live, is having a job that pays you enough money, so a livable wage, that you can live within the city that you care so deeply for. And then I think just one other piece of that is like, over this past year, like I've gotten so passionate about local politics, and really making local politics, one, interesting or just like for people, but also accessible and transparent. Like it's ours, it's our money, it's our it's our government, and it really shouldn't. There's no reason that it has to be so complicated and frankly like academic. I think that's also how like a lot of sort of elite academic institutions operate, and it's really just for like the pomp of it all. It's not
Right.
it's not necessary.
Ooh, I love those.
And so what can we expect to see you getting involved in some local politics potentially? Wink, wink.
Yes.
All
That's
right.
all I can say right now.
Yeah. She's going to get engaged in her community. So
Love it. So we like to close with a question for our guest and an offering that this is your pulpit. What do you want to say to the church?
That makes me like so tender inside. What a tender question. I want to say that the Jesus that you read about on Sunday is living right here, and the Jesus that you read about and the way that that person lived his life, the way that he supported women in power, the fact that he was a Black man who was basically terrorized by the state that he lived in, who fought against that state and flipped the change tables, who, you know, fed people and helped sick people. Like, that's basically all that you need to know for how to live your life. And I guess for me as an individual, if you're somebody that doesn't want to be in your institution anymore, because we don't see a lot of people living like that, you maybe need to check yourself, because everything you need to know is in that really good book. And it's an excellent guide for how to treat people. And even if you don't want to be a part of that world anymore, it's still a really good guide. And I really wish that churches would follow it, because I think that they are powerful institutions that do have the power to make our world a much better place.
amen. And may it be so.
Thank you,
We love
Shannon.
you, and we're
Yes.
grateful to learn from you and be in community with you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
I love y'all too. Thank you so much.
Hear these traveling mercies as you go. As you go, may you find the courage to take the leap from allyship to abolitionist. May you know that this journey is hard, but it is so worth it. May you find rest so that your imagination can run wild and dream up new ways of being. Amen. That's it for this week's episode of Revs on the Road, produced by Good Faith Media. Stop by at goodfaithmedia.org.
Revs on the Road is sponsored by the Pastoral Residency Program at Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas.
Don't forget to check out Wilshire's nationally recognized model for excellence in clergy training. Learn more at wilshirebc.org.
Ride along with us.
The Revs, Ashley,
and Jenna on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Revs on the Road.
and give us a honk by liking the podcast on your preferred platform. Join us next time where we will talk talk about joy as resistance, and wrap up this season.
Join us as we step out of the pulpit, hit the road, and see what God is up to in the world.
We're not leaving the church. We're just finding it in all kinds of beautiful places.